Today we're going to start our workout with some sled work. This is intended to be a warm-up, and so we want to treat it as such, meaning that we want to start with very light weight and then gradually build up to some working weight for the day. I recommend you start with a backwards pull, and then at the end of your runway, move to a forwards push on the way back. So I just completed the backwards. Now I'm just going to smoothly transition to my forwards push. At the end of each of these laps, I'm going to add a 25-pound plate to my sled, which is a pretty small progression for me. So as I go through this warm-up, I'm just going to slowly build in weight as my body acclimates and warms up to the work. 10 to 20 minutes is plenty of time for you to warm up gradually and build to a pretty challenging weight and even a challenging volume with that weight if you choose to do so. So for example, here, I'm going to be adding 25 pounds every lap, and I'm doing that to get up to my body weight. So I weigh 180 pounds. So by the time that I'm at that weight, this does become a very challenging push and pull. Every sled is very different. If you have access to a torque sled, for example, one of those sleds that's on wheels, that would work great, but it's a very different environment. Some sleds slide easier, some sleds are much harder to push. So if you have access to the same sled every time you do this work, I want you to really quantify the amount of work, the amount of laps, and the weights that you pushed. And you can make this really simple. You can count the amount of laps. You can say your starting weight, your finishing weight, and then the increments that you progressed in every time. And that's going to give you a really good amount of data that you can then look back at and be like, okay, my finishing weight was this last time. I got to it in 7 laps. So today I'm going to try to add another 25-pound plate, make it a little heavier, and do an extra lap. And then that way we can control for the volume and intensity that you're putting through your body, especially as you get stronger with this movement. That becomes more and more important, not only to progress you, but to make sure that you're not doing too much too soon. Most injuries happen because of excessive volume and excessive intensities. And so we're trying to really control for those variables. If you don't have access to a sled, you can do a 10-minute dead mill, just pushing the treadmill as it's kept off. This is going to provide a serious amount of burn and work for the quads in a very similar way that the sled would on a backwards pull. After 10 minutes on the dead mill, do a 10-minute stair climb. So now you're looking at 2 exercises that are going to replicate very similar actions that the sled would be providing, but with generalized equipment that you can find in most gyms.